Excellent. Okay, good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the February 5th, 2020 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening?
There are none. No.
So we have summary of non-public actions from January 22nd, 2020. Mr. Burke made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of January 8th, 2020. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0. Mr. Burke made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of January 16th, 2020. Mrs. Harrison second. Motion carried 5-0. Mr. Myers made a motion to accept the resignation of Roseanne Doobie, CHS science teacher. Mrs. McDonald second. Motion carried 5-0. Mr. Myers made a motion to accept the resignation of Kim Nolan, grade 7 LMS teacher. Mrs. McDonald second. Motion carried 5-0. So this evening, and again, I apologize for us starting late, but we had some technical difficulties. This evening we have Mr. Thompson, principal of GMS, is going to have a science presentation, and I'm not sure if you're going to start with the mural presentation first or.
I will do the science thing so our teachers can be done.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I got excited about talking about science actually by observation over a number of years of all of the great things our teachers have been doing with science. We passed new curriculum documents in 2015, I think it was. And as you know, we implemented Project Lead the Way. I'm going to be really brief. I'm aware that we're already late. It's a little bit funny operating this because I can't see that, but we hope that it'll work okay. I would like to acknowledge our teacher team. Not with us this evening is Courtney Beach, preschool teacher, sick child at home. And we have for the kindergarten team, we have Mrs. Adamakis and Sean Elliott. For grade 1, Mrs. Doucette. Grade 2 could not be here tonight. For grade 3, we have Angelo Plant, and for grade 4, Mrs. Cullen Kent. I'll ask them to come up when it's, we could begin by having the kindergarten team right up here so we could just move quickly. But I'm going to go through this. Science instruction has grown a lot over the last number of years, and we've put a lot of money into it, meaning thank you, board, for putting a lot of money into it. So science instruction, you can pull up a chair, Sean, that'll be great.
See, I didn't get away with it.
Science instruction is based on the Next Generation Science Standards, our curriculum document, and it has 3 qualities. It's recurring concepts, scientific inquiry, and it's in multiple science disciplines. So what we're really talking about is the development of a scientific mindset. As I said, I went to a preschool classroom. Mrs. Beach, Courtney Beach, could not be here this evening, but I'm going to talk a little about what I saw there. So the science competencies, there are 3. Apply recurring science concepts, apply scientific inquiry to solve authentic problems and demonstrate science literacy, and apply the core ideas within 3 areas: physical science, earth and space science, and life science. So we're going to flesh that out a little so you have a mindset as you look at all of this. What are the big concepts? These are the concepts that are covered in the curriculum, and they play out in a number of different areas. I'll let you read them. For those at home, energy and matter, scale, proportion and quantity, cause and effect, stability and change, structure and function, systems and system models, science and society, and patterns. Those are the big concepts. And the inquiry part of it is about process. We ask students to analyze and interpret data, ask questions and define problems, construct explanations and design solutions, develop and utilize models, engage in argument from evidence, obtain, evaluate, and communicate information. Those are the big process pieces. And we ask them to do that in science within physical science, earth and space science, and life science. So that's the big concepts. We have used a variety of resources and really changed away from an old textbook we had from the 80s. So we use Project Lead the Way. Sandy Doucette and Paula Cullen-Kent, who are here, were trained as trainers in 2015 and then worked on school-wide training of all of the staff, because at GMS, all classroom teachers teach science. It's not a department. Mystery Science is an online subscription that some teachers experimented with it. And now we have a school-wide online subscription that teachers can use. Carolina Biologicals provides life science materials in particular at grade 4. And then teachers also find a variety of other resources. So I'm going to ask either Mrs. Cullen-Kent or the teachers at the table would be great to talk about Project Lead the Way, or Mrs. Doucette. So we have 2 slides here, the engineering design process, and the next one looks similar, but it's the scientific inquiry process. So if either of you,
Do you want me to talk about
yeah,
this?
that would be great.
Okay, this is actually in ours. And so the kids ask a question. We kind of lead. It's all led by teachers. So we ask a question. Our questions were 3 different questions, but we did structure and function. So what was structure and what did function mean? And we gave them ideas. And you'll see as we go on, there was like 3 projects that they had to do. One was, we read The 3 Little Pigs. They had to build a house. They got materials from popsicle sticks to like little bricks and toothpicks. And then we were like the big bad wolf, and we had like a tiny leaf blower that tries to blow down the houses. So like they love this. The other one was they had to build a beanstalk. So we read Jack and the Beanstalk. They have to build a beanstalk out of pipe cleaners. And their challenge is to get it as strong as they can and as tall as they can. And the last one was they had to do a paintbrush. They had to make a paintbrush out of different materials. They have a dowel, feathers, any crayons, markers, anything was really string, yarn, feathers, anything they could use. So that was, so we used the other one though.
Use that.
Yeah. So they explored, they made a model. We then test it. And then we go back and say, how could we make it better? And most kids were able to say, oh, I could make it stronger by this, or do something on every one that they think. And I think you experienced the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and you'll see that in the slides. We
Yeah.
got it in our slides.
And so this one is the scientific inquiry process. It's slightly different.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
This process is very similar to the design, except it's used for life sciences and one of the topics, and earth science, excuse me. So the topic I'll be talking about is in earth science. And it's a little different, but we start out asking questions, getting the kids to wonder about things in the environment. And then we give them scenarios and they predict what is going to happen. And then they actually do the experiment, whether it's a stream table or they try to put platelets together, the original, the plates of the earth together to make it look like a map and kind of draw conclusions about that. They observe what's happening. They're looking, and then after that, they give an explanation. In 4th grade, though, it's a little more advanced because in their explanation, they also have to use scientific information. So they're reading articles, they're going online, watching videos to build their background knowledge so that when they observe something, they can draw better conclusions. And again, you'll see in my presentation, they write. And so we're asking them to really work at writing down what they observed and why, and to make it clear as they can. And of course, they share with the class.
thank you. So preschool, when I went in October or so, November, they were doing this project based on gingerbread men, which you'll see. And I was really struck by this wall display. And look at all of the things that scientists who are 4 years old can do. They can ask questions, they can record data, they can, I can't read them all from here,
Observe.
sort, observe, they can
Compare.
count. And really key for very young children, if you see the yes column, they can use the senses of looking, smelling, feeling, and sound, but definitely no for the eating, because although they did eventually eat them. But this was a real scientific inquiry, and I was just amazed. So what they did is they observed and examined gingerbread cookies. They measured the cookies using non-standard units of measure. So instead of inches or millimeters, which is really abstract, you'll see they actually used bears, and they measured by bears. They shared findings about what they looked like, smelt like, felt like, sounded like, and later tasted like once they got approval. And they predicted whether they would sink or float in milk. Then they recorded their data. This is real scientific inquiry. So you can see that they're using magnifying glasses, they're examining, they're touching, they're looking at texture. They're using, as I said, bears to actually measure the width, to make comparisons. Those papers are booklets where they record the data and they're collecting all this information. And then they also use the inquiry to solve authentic problems. That's a standard. They actually built a bridge to get the gingerbread man over the river, which is the blue tape. And then they had to, again, theorize, build it, and see what happened. So I'm going to now turn it over to our kindergarten team to talk about their unit. And if you want to change it, I don't know if your button works, you have to press up and down.
I can do that. I'm just wondering at some point if I'm going to be able to move your mouse over because there's something I need to click on at some
Yeah.
point. Okay, so this is the description, Project Lead the Way's description for the unit that we just completed for structure and function exploring design. But in a nutshell, students learn how to think like an engineer. They listen to stories with structure concepts in them, and they have opportunities to investigate and experiment ways to build sturdy structures while keeping in mind the function the structure needs to fill. Nope, it doesn't. Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on. It's just got a little pause on it. So structure and function exploring design addresses the core ideas in engineering design. And so that's where the core idea is on engineer design. So we read the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and we discuss the story and the function behind the beanstalk. So we follow the engineering design process here, where they have to ask, what is the problem? And the problem is, how can you climb up a beanstalk and still hold the weight? Then we follow it up with, so it was explore. So we start thinking about how we can do this. And they create a picture of what Jack's beanstalk looked like. And then the materials that they're going to use are pipe cleaners. So on the right, you can see that this student took pipe cleaners on the bottom, how she was going to make it and how she was going to try to make it tall. And then we have model, which is when they have to actually create their picture. So you can see on the left side, she made it. We measured it. It was 7 inches. And then the next day, they came back and I said, can you make it even better? So they would try to take it apart and see if they can make it better. She made it 11 inches. So she was really excited over that. And what I love is her picture that she drew is pretty close to how she tried to make it, which is impressive because sometimes you have them making
Does
it.
it look like the model?
Yes, so she did a really nice job. So after we've now modeled and we've tried to revise, then we evaluate to see if it worked and if it didn't work, and we talk about it. And then finally we explain what we did, what we needed to do in the future to make it better. And so it's about revising and trying to continue making it better. And they love doing this. It's very hands-on. They talk to each other about, what's going on. Oh, I can make this better if I do this. How did you do that? Oh, I did this way. Oh, well, let me try that. So there was a lot of discussion that goes on with all of this. Then we go on to read The Three Little Pigs, and we discuss the different shelter structures, including how their own home is structured. We talk about other homes, igloos and grass huts and all these other things. And we talk about using the right materials to help the function and strength of structures. So then students are partnered up and are given either toothpicks which is straw, or popsicle sticks, which is this house of sticks, or brick sponges, which is their sponges, which are the bricks, and they create their structures. And they're allowed to use clay and or glue to try to help piece it together. And so we discussed the importance of a strong foundation because it has to be able to stay put because the big bad wolf is going to come and blow it away. And then they go to work and I gave them 2 days to work on it. They would work on it. And then the next day, sometimes they have time to think and they come back and they restructure it. And then we put it to the test. And I'm not sure, you're going to be able to get the mouse over. I'm wondering if it's one of those mirror things. So we have to click on wolf blows the house in, or did he? Will it work?
The cursor's in there. If
It's just a matter of finding where it is.
Go off to the
So
side.
that's what I'm
it's-
thinking, because I think it's where it's way over. There we go.
There it is.
All right, so here is, and you'll hear the excitement of the children. So here we go.
Little bit, I can come in.
We have to tell them to stop screaming. Because some houses go blowing away.
All right. So
All right.
right there, and you can see just all the excitement. They can't wait for that part of it. All right. Do I have to put it back to
And they don't even think they're learning anything.
No.
We really surprised them.
How do I make that? Okay, there we go.
Don't tell
All right.
So this was it's a little story that they're talking about being creative, and this is where they have to design the paintbrush and what will the function of their paintbrush be. Do they want it to make polka dots? Do they want it to make a thin line? Do they want it to make a thick line? So they use tape and glue and all those materials to do that. And then I tested all my kids' paintbrushes.
So you can see over here, the left, she's got her beautiful paintbrush. And then did they make thin lines, thick lines, dots? And then making sure that they understand the whole purpose behind what is function, what is structure. Oh, you're kidding me.
The function.
And yeah, because she was so adorable. Why is she not allowed to go up there? How about this one? All right, so here's this one.
Structure is something that you build.
So structure is something that you build. And let's try
The
this
other
one.
one. Oh, that was the function of the house.
No, all right, well, whatever. Okay, anyhow, she was adorable too because she had, and she could tell you exactly what function meant.
Yeah.
Do you remember what she said?
She said the function of the house is to be strong and not be blown down.
Yeah. So that's kindergarten. They love it. They want to do science again, because they're hands-on. They get to be thinking and talking to each other. They have to partner up at times, which means that you have to learn how to work in groups. So it just hits up so many different things. All right, you're up.
And that's a good segue because the partner up, the collaboration is a really big thing in first grade. Getting them to understand that other people have views and it might not just be their view that is the best one. And they work in teams. So we usually 2 to 3, my groups right now are 3 each. And we start out with light and sound. We have 3 different modules in first grade: light and sound, animal adaptations, and sun, moon, and stars. And we just recently finished light and sound, so have very recent information that I can give you. They understand we go over videos on light and sound and where the vibrations causing the vibrations causing how it gets there. It goes through the air and bounces off and goes into your brain. And they understand that part. And then the light part is, well, today we were talking about reflection and refraction. So yeah, go home and they're talking about reflection and refraction, and they understand that why do you see something that, like ice, you can see reflection off ice rather than off of sand, and trying to understand that part. I'm hoping I'm doing this the right way and you're clicking. Yeah, there we go. And the competencies for the applying recurrent science concepts, so light and sound travels over distances through materials. And one of the things they had to do was put a flashlight and decide whether if you put your hand up, will the light go through your hand? Another one were different colored lenses and another one was a mirror. And some of them insisted that if you put a light into a mirror, you're going to see a light coming out the other side. But the mirrors that we had, they saw the light on the other side of the mirror. So it took a little while for them to understand, did it actually reflect on the paper and not on the other side, you know? And they understood that. And after that, we went off to the vibration part, the sound. So we actually started with the vibration. So this competency covers I started with the sound part. So the slides are a little backwards, but this one covers the sound and the vibrations off. Elastics are around that little tub, and they'll bounce them back and forth. It was very noisy in the classroom at the time. And as they were saying, kindergarten, the kids love it. It's the hands-on. What I find is by the time we're done one unit, they are working better together. They understand that my viewpoint might not be the only one. So that I feel is a really large part of the science unit and the whole Project Lead the Way, where they cannot. Project Lead the Way was a big thing where it's not an independent. You cannot work by yourself. It's not a one-person thing. You have to work with people, because in the future you will be working with somebody that you might have to understand their viewpoint and not just theirs, not just yours. So this one covers the leading up to. This is a big one. They cover the collecting information, where Paula was saying earlier. They record it and share. We start having them write them down. And we do some of it together. We start out where we're writing the answers together, but then you kind of wean them off and they go off and you can see them, they're recording in their launch logs. And they're basing their observations on, basing their input into what they saw. The tools, different tools we have around the room for them to use that comes with the kits. For this one, it was the elastics around for that. And another one they do for the three people they talked about in kindergarten, Milo, Angelina, and Susie, they follow through in all the stories. So they continue in first grade, and I believe it goes all the way through to fourth grade, which is really nice. The children get to see the same children in the story, and it follows them through fourth grade. They have a problem on this one where they go on a hike with a group of people, and when they get to a certain point, one group decides to go off a different way, and it was kind of like a pretzel. And one group decided, well, we'll go this way, and we'll go to meet down, and we'll meet down the other end. Well, they got lost. They go off the side. So the end of the unit project is for them to come up with a way to communicate with the group that is down already back at the starting point in the middle of a forest. And they have flashlights, they have water bottles that so they go through all the supplies that they've had, that they brought with them, and try and decide how would be the best way to communicate with the other group. And this one was the one where they're coming up with their decisions, their ideas of how they're going to communicate with the other group. It was very interesting to watch. And we talk about it later, where did you really need all those pieces that you used? Even though all these pieces are on the table, did you have to use them all? So they used most of them. And they took a flashlight and a mirror, the flashlight, mirror, and water bottles pretty much get the job done. But they had to take the flashlight and put it inside the water bottle and tape it really, really well with the mirror on there. So that was a great lesson for them to understand later. Well, did you really need all those pieces, or could you have done it a little bit differently? And they did really well with that, understand that. And the working together, as I said, it got better as we got to the end, which is really nice. And this is just the first one out of the 3 that we do. And that is it.
Okay. Hi. So I have, we did life science recently. So we did heredity and inheritance of traits. Basically, we use mystery science, not PLTW. And it follows that same process, though. That whole kind of, asking a question, exploring and everything. And mystery science is something that Paula introduced to us, and we love it. It's just fantastic. It's really engaging. And like for this particular unit, it started off as asking the question, how can you make a sweeter apple? And just by passing, the plants pass on traits as well. And then we get into animals passing on traits. Along with that, we talk about fossils and how we can figure out what life was like in the past by animals that we have today and traits that they share, and recognizing those things. So that's kind of the gist of the what we did. These were, again, some competencies that we addressed. The changing of habitat or traits causing changes in animals as time goes on. And using the words like selection and natural selection, understanding that vocabulary and how it works. And in the next slide. So these are kind of the activities that we do. So for mystery science, as one example, like I said, we start off with the plant with the apple and passing on traits to make a sweeter apple. Basically tasting an apple, if that's sweet, planting its seeds, and then tasting the sweetest apple of that, and so on. And then how do we have so many different types of dogs? And recognizing that, well, that's through selection, and figuring out, with those two parents, what type of a dog would you get? I created this. I used to teach life science in 7th grade years ago. And we talked a lot about traits. And so I was thinking, how are we going to do this for 3rd grade? And 4th grade used to do this. And so then it got pushed down to 3rd grade. And I was thinking, this seems maybe too heavy, too big for this age. But it's presented in a really nice way through mystery science. And we kind of end the unit with a little bug activity where you have 2 bug parents and you pick out all the traits that you're going to get. And they're given a story about what are some good traits, some strong traits to have. And they talk about, they notice that they are similar to their siblings. These are all siblings, but they also have a variation and what traits they got from their mom and their dad, bug parent. It's fun. They love it. Just like they were all saying, science is just very hands-on and it's inquisitive for them and they enjoy it. They can really get a lot from it. So anyways, mystery science was great. And that's mine.
Okay, how do I hit that?
You're going to go to
The plus? No, the
No,
arrow.
the arrow.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, 4th grade. Since we had the younger grades doing the physical sciences, even though 4th grade does 2 units on physical science with PLTW, and we also do the brain and how the brain works with PLTW. We also are using Carolina Biological because we couldn't find anything in PLTW on the life or earth sciences. And these kits from Carolina Biological are based on the next gen standards, and they kind of follow the same process that is presented with Project Lead the Way, and they really match up well with our curriculum. So in this one, they are learning about how distinct features of the earth came to be and how they continue to change. And so these are some of the science concepts that recur quite often throughout this investigation, looking at patterns and then seeing how those patterns impact the earth, these forces, and how they shape the land. And then using that understanding of patterns to make predictions, a lot of cause and effect relationships from the beginning with mantles and the Earth's plate shifting, as well as things that we're seeing today with earthquakes, floods, volcanoes. So they use that information to make predictions. And I put up the different process because for life and earth, we use the scientific inquiry process. They ask, they predict, but their investigation is pretty much set up for them, and then they observe, and then they can vary things and make changes, but the initial investigation is set up for them. They make observations, they explain, and they can go back and change. One of the, they really observed different types of rocks. They simulated the rock cycle using starbursts.
Graham loved that.
And so we had starburst sediments in 3 different colors. And then we, heat and pressure and, went through the different changes from the different rocks up to metamorphic and then magma when we took the candle and melted it. And so they worked in teams and they did pretty well on this. And then again, with the stream tables, it wasn't just, they had to look and see what was happening, but then also they used vegetation. Well, we didn't really put plants in, we used toothpicks and to see how that affected how the stream went, if the stream went fast or slow, what happened, how it created sediment at the bottom. And so that was a really, that we did a lot of work with that. A little bit messy, but they love it. And of course, they did models of the earth with clay and then cut into it to see all the different layers. And we did some work with tectonic plates and trying to predict where earthquakes and volcanoes would occur today. And so they did, and they looked at real maps. They did a really good job. And this was their first unit. So you can see them recording data. You can see from looks on their faces. I mean, they just want to get right in there. I think they'd all want their own stream table and do it themselves, this class in particular. So as Sandy said, getting along and agreeing is a real difficult lesson. This was our first quarter. So, but they're coming along. And how do I make this go?
Use your mouse. You can.
This one on the
Yeah,
pad?
and it'll move it. Yeah.
And by all means, my team helped me. They sent me pictures and videos to put together here. So we're all working on this.
It's just making like a river. Oh, that was not a river. This is happening. This is like a river. Well, we'll clean it up later.
Yeah, too bad
Yeah,
the bus
I've
gets
heard that
full
before.
and we end up finishing. But this was the initial. You can see, they kind of like, and then they put toothpicks and tried to change the course of the river. And then they see how maps are made by putting plastic over that, and they can see, how satellites make maps and things like that. So they did a nice job. We'll clean up after. I like that girl. She's not in my class. She's in Julie's class. And then they really got into it. They examined the rocks. And this is how, after they had learned, we had done all these things on rocks as well as doing the simulation of the rock cycle and everything like that. So they learned a lot of terms. And then they actually looked at it, and you can see the recording data, all kinds of data on texture. They had to predict what kind of rock it was by looking at all the different characteristics, physical characteristics of the rock. So they really got into it. These were not stage shots. I took these pictures. So, and then they did diagrams of the rock cycle. So some like to get on the floor, some use the desk, and they have a good time. And we do apply core ideas with earth science. And one thing I think was kind of interesting is the use of maps. They used maps, different types of maps, to kind of really understand the features of the earth and how those plates are shifting, how it's affecting where people live and things like that. They made observations. They did all kinds of recording of data. And another big thing that's important, and it kind of ties in with our literature series and also with Scholastic magazine, and then some of the mystery science videos you can watch, Science Genius as well, is connecting the current world events to Earth changes, because they're noticing that there are many changes going on in our Earth right now, because it seems every other day there's like a flood or earthquake or a volcano erupts, or so they can use their basic understanding that they're going to develop in the later years and start to see, oh yeah, I know why that happens. Mm-hmm. I bet you I know where it happens, because they started looking at these maps. So they really enjoy it. And I don't know if that's my last slide. And it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did promise the teachers that the board might have questions, so they're here for that purpose if you do.
Mine is more of a comment. I think it looks like a lot of fun. It's very different from the science lessons I remember from when I was a kid. And I think that's a testament to you all and, kind of our district endeavor in getting these kids future ready. Like you said, Paula, that, eventually they're going to be tackling real world, real life problems, that they need to fix. These are our engineers and our climate change scientists and our doctors and our botanists and our entomologists studying bug traits. And, I think it's amazing that it's that we're already working on that kind of advanced thinking, the collaboration and the critical thinking, problem solving at preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and all up through. I think it's a great foundation for them. So thank you.
It's awesome. I do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You hit it on head with problem solving. Problem
Yeah.
solving is the biggest thing, really.
Yeah.
You get out of the day, out of this.
Yeah. It's huge. It's a huge.
Well, I also, that's number one, but working with each other, when the kids, we all see kids around, so this is me and my way is the right way, and that's huge too.
Yeah.
And I love they're working with maps. You don't see enough map skills anymore. Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. So just two quick things. I will try to be efficient. There is a project that's been brought up by the PTO, and Kristen Sterrett is our art teacher. And what it is, you have this in your packet. So the concept was to add some more community-based art, so things that students help make in the school. So Heidi talked to Kristen and I talked, we came up with a location where we think it could work. So in the budget, we have requested to improve the front lobby. We'd like to replace the kind of tired bulletin board that's over by the bathrooms with a semi-permanent, meaning a changeable art project. And with the idea that it could be part of field day to create the art project every year. We thought we could build a 4x8 foot frame on the wall where the bulletin board is. It's a 4x12 foot bulletin board. And then she could do an art project every field day, which could be put into the frame for the whole next year. For this year, and her idea is that she could use the fourth grade students, like do a broad outline, use the fourth grade students to help create zones, and then have the students all participate in doing a painted project. So before we added something of a permanent nature to the building, I thought I'd bring it to the board.
Whereabouts is what wall?
Yeah, so if you're looking at the window where you check in at the school, way off to the left, there's this really long bulletin board where we put like fan displays or other whole school displays. That's, I believe, a 10-foot bulletin board. So it'd go over there, but it would be 2 feet shorter.
What would the mural be put on as far as material? And could that, when it's removed there, could it be placed in another area of the school?
So we were thinking using like a finished grade plywood, 4x8 foot. So it's a very smooth paintable surface. And it could be
So it'd be
moved.
heavy.
We have fairly limited wall space. And if you think of our school, we have tiles up, I don't know exactly, 5 feet, something like that, over much of the school. So we really don't have a lot of spaces where we could fit something like that.
Maybe it could be auctioned off or something. I mean, it's
Or
a
moved to a new
beautiful piece of
elementary
art. I
school or
would hate to see it,
Yeah.
just
Make me move.
anyway.
Why? I'm just thinking as far as visibility, because it's kind of like hidden over there.
Yeah.
Why not where the bulletin boards are before the gym?
That would be another possibility. It certainly would be more visible there. There are other things that bulletin board is used for. So we have moved public notices for the most part to the vestibule, so that like board meetings and stuff, we put that outside.
I'm just thinking as far as
I think that
visibility.
would work. Yeah.
So it'd be like similar to a display case, like you have the upholstery.
The weaving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, the felt
upholstery.
project.
What do you call that?
Fiber arts.
It's
Textile.
It was a felt artist in residence project. They make felt.
So, but that one's not on the board, so we can
I
move
think we should have them do upholstery. I'll drop off my couch.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
I think it's a great idea. I think having it be something that the kids can contribute to is a great idea.
Mhm.
And I think, anything to kind of brighten and make people smile as they come into the building
And
is a
then you
good
can
thing.
walk in and say, I was part of this.
Yeah.
And did it.
Yep.
We haven't designed the frame yet, but the idea is to have the frame be kind of permanent and then be able to change the artwork every year. So it'd be
Smart, I like that.
Yeah, kind of a finished grade thing. And yes, I agree, losing it each year is kind of sad, but it's also exciting to
Fun.
do a new
Right.
project, so.
Well, if it weren't for the fact we want to get a new GMS school, I would say take them and line them up down the hallway.
Mhm.
And the nurses,
Right.
on both sides of the wall, 'cause you have enough space there that you finish one, you can place it in the hallway. But on a piece of plywood, you can always move it to the new school too.
So there's a PTO meeting next Tuesday. So if the board approves of that idea, I'll tell them the board's excited and seek
I think it's great.
Okay.
Do we need to vote?
Sure.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the GMS mural project as presented by Mr. Thompson.
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. That's great.
Thank you.
The other thing I shared with you was the kindergarten and grade 1 data, but I know I'm way over time and you have a long agenda.
Thought it looked promising.
Well, it is very promising, actually, and that's why I brought it to you. So,
Awesome.
Excellent.
Where is that?
It's on the, it's an attachment. It's in the agenda. Have we ever looked at STAR testing instead of Ames
Looks
Web?
like this.
Double check the area. I don't know that we.
Scott, how are we doing on kindergarten and first grade enrollments?
So I put in my principal's report. I can't see my screen
Oh.
anymore. It's so, I don't
Okay.
know. I just figured that out.
You want me to get it back?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. But we have 57, last I knew, enrolled in kindergarten. I put it on my principal's report.
Okay.
Right at the top. And and grade 1 is very up in the air. This year, we moved, as you recall, from full-day kindergarten. We only added 9 students going to grade 1, which is many fewer than we've
Yeah.
ever had.
Yeah.
So we have 76 or 7, I'll have to check, in kindergarten. And I talked to the faculty today, actually, at the staff meeting. I don't know where we'll end up with grade 1 sections for next year, because if we added 9, we would still require 5 grade 1s. We have 5 at the moment.
Yeah.
If we, if we only have room for 2 or 3 or 4 more kindergarten students before we hit 80 in grade 1. But I have to look, I didn't. Look at
What is the number for, the trigger number for first grade?
And I know it's 20 per school, per
Oh.
grade, but I think it might be 83.
I think it's
So
83.
it's
and that
really
makes sense.
close. It's
Yeah.
right on the line.
What if we have 82 in September or 80? Do we add the 5th? Do we cut the 5th? What happens in that? Well, you won't have to worry about that.
That's why
No,
Scott's
I do
leaving.
have to, because I have to come up with
Oh.
facts about room use.
Oh, that's
I'm
true.
really working on that for next year, and that's what I talked to the faculty with. And there's just too many variables at the moment to really predict.
It's early too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot, there'll be movement in houses.
A lot of
It's always,
houses.
yeah.
Yeah, so I do believe that we can have, so 83, this is what I remember, but I don't have it in front of
It's
me.
83.
That sounds, about-
It's,
83 is correct.
yeah, because you can have like 1 extra in 3 of the rooms, but when you get to 1 extra in 4, I think that's the way it was set up.
That's
Yeah.
grades 1 through 3.
I'm really not sure what I did, but it's sort of
I'll figure it out.
Good luck,
later.
Scott.
So the good news about the kindergarten and grade 1 testing is we are seeing improved. I gave you 3 years, so you can see that. We went a little down from last year, which is why I put the age chart in there. Our current year grade, about more than a quarter of the class is born in the first 3 months. They're very young. And at this age, That's 20% of the 6-year-old's life. That was the end of my presentation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Would you like me to stay for any reason?
No, I think you'll be all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unless you enjoy our company.
I do.
So that brings us to performance. Any guess?
Go ahead and guess.
None.
No, no. Really? Really? I even tested. You probably all got an email from me that said test.
Yes.
That was
No,
to
one
me.
email.
No,
Wow.
not one email. Nothing directed to the school board.
Oh.
So that would be correspondence.
That brings us to the superintendent.
So a couple of items, the capital planning update. So we just had our capital planning meeting right before this. And so the rest of the board should know that I think we're making headway. We're exploring a lot of options and then bringing stuff back to the committee. So unless, and Tina and Brian are there, I don't know if you have something you want to specifically share with the full board or.
No, just it was an interesting conversation that we had as far as aid, as far as buildings. Amy Clark was here. She basically is the one who's responsible for dispensing the building aid in Concord. And it just came about again as far as money's being freed up. And she basically went through the process with us as far as there's a large timeline as far as presentation. Forms that have to be filled out and sent in and the whole big time frame. But like she said, we're kind of like at the right stage for what we want to do. So, I mean, it was, I think some good positive information we got from her as far as what we need to do if we are going to consider a new building and how we have to present.
Yeah.
And the money's not as much as some people might think. Right now, we're at about 30%. So do the math. If you're doing a $20 million building, it's $6 million you can possibly get from the state.
But I think she made me feel better that where we are with the ask of the public for a $70,000 feasibility study is right where we ought to be. We're doing our homework, we're getting things lined up. And I think that from the state point of view, it sets us up for the next biennium, not the next biennium, but the one after the next biennium, which is when there could be some possibilities. So it made me feel better that we're on track.
Mhm.
I always feel like we're a little behind, but on this one, it didn't come
We're
across
right.
that way.
We're poised to do what we need to do.
We also were presented a sketch of the possibility of what LMS would look like by the addition of 6 classrooms and a new entranceway. So it's another idea we're looking at as far as getting room at LMS, eliminating the portables, and making the building safer as far as an entranceway.
Why are you looking at me?
Liz.
So the next thing is a CCTV update. So we've had communication with Rob Fay. You know, basically, we're still not exactly sure who owns the equipment in the room off where the board meets at the high school. There's some question about whether it was equipment that was bonded when the high school was built. And then I think the community television has enhanced that over time. But basically, the community television is saying, we're done. We're just going to abandon on site. There's nothing in there of use to us. And it doesn't seem that it's of use to the school district. So I just wanted the board to be aware that that's the situation that we're in. We have old, outdated equipment. Nobody's really interested in doing anything with it. I'm moving into cleanout mode, which is then let's get it out of there because
Use the
that's
space.
prime real estate that we could use in some other way. And so I just wanted the board to be aware of that. But right now we're really hindered on, if we're not here meeting, broadcasting from the high school is a hindrance. So you have to rely on bringing equipment in and then recording because it seems like going live from there is not something we can do. So
The last time we recorded from there, Matt brought in, was it you? I can't remember. Yeah, it was basically a handheld camera.
Mhm.
And that's how we broadcast it on YouTube. So,
but was it live that night, Matt, or was it?
no,
It was not. So it was recorded and then broadcast later.
the same thing can always happen either there or even at the fire station.
Yep.
If need be.
And then we can look at, I mean, are there some other technologies that we could go live? Is this something that the school district would want to get into? I'm also of the mind, the more I've thought about it, of, well, that's our purpose is having the meeting, and TV's purpose is to record and cover it. And so staying in our lanes might be something that we want to explore down the road, that, okay, that's their business to get the meeting broadcast and shared with the community. So
I wonder too, like if it's, as our kids, you know, our high school students are moving into more careers in technology and communications and things like that. I wonder if that might be an opportunity for us too. If, you know, if we do partner with the cable TV, with Litchfield Cable, you know, maybe it could benefit our students. Maybe we can add some programming there down the line.
but unless the board objects, at least getting getting a handle on the equipment that's in there, and you know, is there any value? Rob Fay's sense is there's not really any value to the equipment. It's not even stuff that we could sell. It's pretty outdated. So
Clean it up.
clean it out. Yep.
Yeah, use that space.
All right. So my next update is on GMS bathrooms. So I'm sure people saw that there was a thread that was put on the internet just regarding the cleanliness of the bathrooms. And I want the board to know that we took it very seriously, and we responded to it immediately. Our custodial staff went in and really cleaned the bathrooms as thoroughly as you can. You remember that it's interesting. So, you know, talking with Dave, he's like, well, you know, the tiles, it's the new tile in there. And I'm like, all right, when do we put that in? Because it's pink and blue, like 1990. And he said, yeah, 98 is when it got renovated. So even the new bathrooms are many years of use on them, right? So it doesn't mean that, and actually what was being perceived by the public or some members of the public as dirt, it was dried on wax. So, you know, the wax dried on and then you have this black stain. It's really not dirt. It had to be scraped off with a razor blade because it's wax that's stuck on the toilet. But we were able to get that taken care of. So, you know, if members of the public have concerns, by all means, get those to us. And internally, we need to work on our communication back when the concerns come in to make sure the public knows that we're responding and reacting to that. Because what got posted on the internet was actually 2-week-old pictures that had already been addressed. And, you know, to me, the fault was that we didn't get back to the person to say, we fixed the toilet seat. We've repaired the leaking faucet. You can imagine, it's just like home. Getting a plumber to the school takes a couple of days. They're not just hanging around ready to pounce on a project, right? So it takes a while for somebody to get there, but we did take care of that. And so I just want the board to be aware, you know, anytime somebody goes out on the internet and it looks like a black eye on us, I just want to address that and get that taken care of. But kudos to our crew who jumped right on it. I thank Philip tonight, who's the nighttime lead down there, because he was on his hands and knees getting that cleaned up. And that's what has to happen in order to get it resolved. GMS principal search update. So moving on to that topic, I met with the staff today. We've made a little bit of a modification to the plan that we had. So we're going to have teacher involvement in the executive committee just to make sure that, you know, the staff asked for that. And I said, well, we didn't do it because, not to exclude anybody, but a lot of that work is taking place during the day. And I didn't want to be pulling teachers out of the classroom for that. But they're going to communicate with Maura and we'll be plugging ahead. So there will be teachers involved there to make sure that they understand where we are with the search. The applications closed today. The executive committee is meeting tomorrow. I think we had 13 applicants this morning, many sitting principals and or assistant principals in the pool. So I feel very optimistic that we can go quickly. Scott did a search this weekend and said there are 25 principal openings across the state, but he included middle and high school. I think the number is more like 10 to 12 at the elementary level. But we need to, our timeline is aggressive because we're either going to get the best candidate or the 10th best candidate. And I want to be aggressive and try to get the best candidate. So that's why we have an aggressive timeline. And anybody watching at home, there is a community opportunity to participate on Monday, February 17th. And that's from 4 to 8 in the evening. And so we'll be getting more word out to get that populated. But community members will have a stake in helping to select who the candidate is. So if it works well.
I'll be held at GMS.
At GMS, yep. So somebody who is interested in coming here as a leader really needs to participate in that in the school so they can really get a sense of the way the building is. Board members, you're reminded, I think I sent you an invite. Maybe I didn't. You're welcome to observe that night,
February 18th.
February 17th.
17th.
It's Monday. And
It does on the outline you gave us.
yes, but let me get you an invite so that you're welcome to come and observe. I think, so as I said to the executive committee, they can't get multiple bites at the apple. So they can't sit in and observe and then help debrief and share their opinion with their thumb on the scale. They can listen to what's being said and take that in. And I would ask the board to do the same thing. So if you're coming that night to
What time is that?
sit, observe, it's 4 to 8.
Okay. You serving food?
So yes, I brought that up with Barbara. I think that we're gonna have food right at 4. And then once we get into it, it'll be.
Can you explain to me what the executive council is?
Executive committee.
Committee, yeah.
It's me, Mary,
Yeah.
as Director of Curriculum
Uh-huh.
Instruction and Assessment. It's Maura as the assistant principal.
That's good.
It's Holly and Barbara from our office, and now it will be a teacher or maybe 2 teachers, not exactly sure, from GMS. We'll figure that out tomorrow. And so the purpose is to pre-screen and speed date candidates
Oh, yep, I remember that part.
to then send,
Yeah, I remember the speed dating.
2 to 4 high-quality candidates on to the night at GMS, where they will meet. They'll meet a teacher and staff team. So it's everybody. Everybody involved in the school has an opportunity to
And
participate.
parents can come.
Then there'll be a parent room, and parents and community members will be able to participate. There'll be the administrative room where the principals, assistant principals, and directors will have an opportunity to participate. And if we end up with 4 quality candidates, we'll have students involved with a tour interaction piece that actually Scott and Moore will observe. Their purpose would be to observe the interactions between the children and the candidates. So I think it'll, in a perfect world, a rainbow goes up over one candidate and we all know that's the right person. So we'll see if that happens. But that's plugging ahead, and it's coming on very fast. And then the last thing for the board is the school calendar draft. And so if you click that link, it will open up a draft calendar for next year. And there aren't too many surprises next year other than the beginning of the year. I want to talk about that in a second. But
November.
Yeah, November seemed a little different to me, just because the first quarter looks like it's ending on the 9th, but we have conferences scheduled before the end of the quarter.
yes. And so what we are facing is that because Campbell High School is used as a polling place, we're trying to steer clear of having school in session on those days so that we can turn the whole facility over to the community and let voting take place. The problem next year is that on September 8th, you have the New Hampshire primary as an election day.
Oh, I see.
November 3rd, which I guarantee is going to have a huge turnout. That's a day that we want to not be there so that the public can vote. And then March 9th is the town election. So there are 3 elections impacting the school calendar here.
Oh, March.
March 9th is the school and town elections.
Okay.
So if we have those as teacher workshop days or actually, I think they're all teacher workshop days on here, right? 3rd, yes. Then it sort of makes November really hard. And,
Yeah.
we have mixed feedback on the week off in November. And also because Veterans Day falls, right in
On
the
a
middle of
Wednesday.
the week on a Wednesday. So that's another, Veterans Day is not a holiday you observe some other time. You observe it on Veterans Day. So
Right.
it really makes November a little bit of a challenge.
The last day of school is late too.
I know, again.
The December holiday, because Christmas and New Year's are on a Friday, so this is one of the more advantageous holiday vacations that you can have. February vacation is the traditional week. April vacation is traditional week. But as you can see, we are ending on June 18th on the 180th day, and that doesn't include any snow days factored in. So let's come back to August for a second. The new teacher contract says that school shall not begin more than 5 days before Labor Day, and it defines a day as a calendar day. So that zeroes us in on Wednesday, September 2nd as the first day for students. And then if you back off that, we're allowed to have teachers come back no more than 7 days prior, which allows us to begin on August 26th for the teacher workshop days. So if we have school for teachers on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, then we're left with the 31st and the 1st kind of hanging out there as undefined days. Teachers are ready to go, but students can't come back yet. So I approached the association over a month ago with a proposal to consider, because I said right now, those 2 days, August and September, are right down there at the end of June. So you can take those days from June and insert them forward if they're interested in a sidebar agreement. But as of today, I haven't heard anything back from the association.
So you want to take the 2 days we don't know what to do with, or we don't want to send the kids back 2 days and then give them Labor Day weekend off?
You lost me.
So when is the official first day of school?
So we're
Second.
if you follow
Second.
if you follow the contract, it's the
Yeah.
second.
But we can't go back on the 31st.
It would involve the association agreeing to start more than 5 days before Labor Day.
That would be nice. I know it's hard to start in the middle of the week because many parents have summer camp scheduled for a full week. I know that's.
But I don't want the
situation
kids to
I'm
keep
into.
going to school till June 18th. I mean, that's
And that's with no snow days.
with no snow days. And why aren't we going to school on March 9th? We usually have school on town election days.
There's
Plus the
concern.
Teacher workshop.
Oh,
Yes, I mean, those teacher workshop days have to be sprinkled in there anyway,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
So it's not an extra workshop day, but it does have students not there. There's concern that's been expressed by some people in the community just regarding the amount of public access in and out of the building and school security. I think people's sense of school security is heightened in this day and age. And so if you have, even though the gym is separate from the school and we can secure that, you still do have a lot of traffic in and out of the building. So if you have to have a teacher workshop day, why not have it on that day?
All right, I'm going to say it.
Voting at Dara?
No, we already asked. They
No,
can't
no
vote
parking.
at Dara. We asked.
There's no parking.
So
And you can't have the teachers go back any earlier, right? Because
Then the
even if you do, it's still going to be that time in between the first day of school.
and there's no way we can do hours. I'm going to just ask because people want to know. There's no way we can do hours
Unless you get a sidebar
This is a
agreement.
sidebar.
Yeah.
with this union.
Do the same thing with as far as starting.
The way
First.
the current contract is written, it's all around days.
But we can renegotiate that in the next contract.
So what happens with teachers on the 31st and the 1st if they don't agree to utilize those 2 days for school?
Those are just 2 days off. They haven't started. They would be, there's a possibility, Brian, that you could pull teacher workshop days and have more workshop, but 5 workshop days in a row is not necessarily the most productive. And then you use them all up front,
Right.
and you don't have an opportunity to circle back to things. So I mean, this one,
Is
it's like
How
the 3
productive is
startup
it, school
days.
day on June 18th?
So you have right now we have the teachers coming back on the 26th, 27th, 28th, right?
Yep.
Is that to keep those 3 days together? I mean, otherwise we have the 28th or the 28th, the 31st, and the 1st.
Yeah.
Then you have to have so many days between that and the first day of school.
We do?
Nope.
I thought you said.
But the issue was I made a gamble that if I said, oh, you have to come back for your first day on a Friday.
I know.
And then follow it by the Monday, Tuesday, that would
Yeah.
not be. So I was trying to keep it together and truthfully hoping that,
I think that's what Hudson did. I think we did that last year.
Go back on a Friday.
We went back on like a Thursday and we went, yeah, that's all right.
I wish we had the input from the LEA.
Still not going to change the
No.
last day though by bringing them back on a different day.
So have you,
Yep.
can you say, have you had any response from them on that? Not sure if you can say.
no, I indicated that, so the preliminary conversation was on January 2nd. And then I said, oh, I'd like to, the board's asking for the draft calendar, so I'd like to take it to the board on
Well,
the
parents are
4th.
asking
And
for
the
it.
only, the parents, and the only response I got was, well, we don't want to rush on this. And I'm like, it's been a month, so I have to bring it forward. I can't just sit on the calendar much longer, so.
No.
And at some point, if there's not an interest, this is it. I mean, your hands are relatively tied by
We
what
can
the
eliminate that
contract
February
says.
vacation.
What's that?
So we can always eliminate that February vacation. Vacation right there in March would be perfect. Get rid of February and April.
So I guess I feel like we can't do anything because we don't have the feedback from the teachers. Right?
Do
I
they
don't
need
want
to approve the calendar?
Nope.
But, well, we do need to approve it.
Eventually.
We do
The
they?
the board needs to approve the calendar. The teachers don't get an approval. That's the board's role.
But this meets all their union requirements.
This meets all the requirements, but it does lock in. Honestly, it
Weird.
leaves 2 weird days in between teacher workshop and the start of school for students. And to me, those 2 days are June 17th and 18th.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You could pull 2 workshop days into those and have school on those days, therefore pulling the 17th and 18th into the calendar. But I think it's not advantageous to the workshop schedule that we want to run. We want to do the
Right.
PD. So
So we could go the 28th, 1st, and 2nd. No, 28th,
28th, 30th, 31st, and 1st.
Yeah.
But we can't start the kids on the 31st.
correct.
no, we can have on the 2nd, though.
Unless there's an agreement from the association to do that. And
Right.
we don't have that.
No, so you don't have 2 days of void there.
Right.
You can just start them on the 28th.
That's another possibility. And yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The 8th is a teacher workshop day. It would give, parents are accustomed to the 4 days of Labor Day.
Mhm.
This still provides it on a Monday, Tuesday.
You don't need approval this evening, do you?
Do not.
I'm sure you want it as soon as possible, but this way we can
It might
look it over and
Just to sweeten it a little bit, maybe you see if they'd let you start on the 31st and take the 4th off. So go back 2 days and gain 1 day, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
At least we'd split it.
Get that Friday, Labor Day.
Do a
Friday.
5-day weekend.
Give them Friday, yeah. I hate to say it, but if pushing us back even a day, it's beneficial to both the union and us.
I wonder too, the New Hampshire primary, I don't get a sense of how big the turnout is for the New Hampshire
we
primary.
have school.
We usually do.
Huh?
We usually have school.
Yeah.
I happened to see the numbers today from last year.
State
Hillary Clinton,
The state
the
primary.
Democrats
It's big
statewide
here.
had like 91,000 voters total on primary 4 years ago.
I think I'm
Oh, wait, that's not even the presidential. I'm sorry. That's
No.
the state primary.
yeah.
No,
That's
it's
nothing.
It's going to be nothing.
What day is that?
The eighth.
September 8th. I mean, for crying out loud, we can lock the door. There's a police officer that has to be there for the polling station anyways. Make sure the
So we
resource
can pull numbers
officers.
from the town anyway. They can give us numbers for the election.
Well, I'm just saying the school locks down. I mean, there's no reason they can't, on a day like that, use the school.
We have in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody does in the past.
I think parents and the community are mostly asking about February break, April break.
School
'Cause they're-
start date.
and school start date. Yeah. The rest of the calendar is what it is. November is funky, but I don't know what we do about that.
Then the question is whether or not we start on the 31st.
Well, can we approve it and just give Mike the leeway for that? Can we approve it knowing Mike has to work?
Well, he doesn't need the approval right now, so it gives us an opportunity. We can look at it and
Yeah.
bring it back to the
Oh,
next
just to
meeting.
get it out to the community.
So-
the days.
Our next meeting is the 19th of February. So, now it's in the public realm. We've discussed it. I'll ask the association again, and if not, we'll bring it back here for a vote on the 19th.
Maybe we'll get a correspondence on it.
I'd love to get feedback. I do.
And that is all I had for my report.
That brings us to school board. Went on to hear your NHSBA delegate assembly. Did you have something?
Yeah. So I was very honored to go to the New Hampshire School Boards Association delegate meeting and be the representative. And all of the motions, the articles, whatever the word is, passed that the NHSBA supported. And kind of the one that was of note was the one that spoke about earlier was restricting firearms on school property, limiting possession to certified police officers only. The School Boards Association voted to support that 45-4-3. So it passed, and it's notable because that had failed, that motion or similar motions had failed, I think, in 3 prior years. So that was somewhat notable. Rochester was School District of the Year. I found their presentation fascinating. They have 50% of their students with low and free lunch. So you think our budget situation is tough? I mean, theirs is even tougher. And some of the stuff that they have done is just really groundbreaking and notable. And so I hope to share that over time. One thing I found was really fabulous was they had 18 move on when ready classes in high school. And those are self-study classes that allow kids to go at their own pace. And so they could potentially even finish Algebra 1 and then move on to Algebra 2 in the same year. Teachers were taught how to do that. And it's going really well. So that was one thing. But there were other great things like, they've done some capital planning, saving money through LED lighting and solar panels and just, some really cool things. So that was really fun to hear. There was also a presentation on best practices for school systems. So I have a couple booklets from them that they gave that I want to get through myself, and then I'll share with everybody else. But it was a great day, and, glad I went, and, would encourage others to go in future years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? I just have one thing. I need a volunteer, Liz. So here, you're going to read Article 5 for me. One sentence at a time. I'm going to read one sentence at a time of Article 3 for us, Article 1. And the reason I'm doing this is you mentioned social media and some falsehoods out there. And it's without the Hudson Litchfield News, we don't have any other means of.
The operating budget?
Yeah.
Do I look like operating budget? I'm public relations.
Someone
I was public relations.
someone posted out there that the way our article reads is very misleading.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to read one sentence at a time. We're going to see how close they are, okay?
Okay.
Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted. Hold on.
Do you want me to read it for you?
No, and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant on the amended by vote at the first session of the annual school district meeting. For the purpose set forth herein, totaling, then it gives the total.
Mhm.
Go ahead, read yours.
It's the same thing with just two words, on instead of in and therein.
And we say herein. Should the article be defeated, the default budget shall be with the amount, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous actions of the Litchfield School District by law. Anything different? No. Or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4. Governing body may hold instead. Wow, this is exactly written like ours
Correct.
with a few.
What are you looking at?
This is how the
That's
town
ours.
writes
Oh,
there.
the town warrant.
This is the town one. Ours is written just like the town one.
So down.
Instead of using in
Well,
Therein,
DRA
DRA gives us the.
But someone had posted that it's very misleading.
Yeah, that we word our things tricky.
Well, I think the confusion was that we did not recommend the operating budget. I think that was the confusion. You know, because they were looking at the recommendation, the school board did not recommend the proposed operating budget, but the budget committee did. I think that might have been the confusing.
Well, that's because they did.
Right. And then that
The
person went on.
town recommended their budget.
Yes, and we
we
did
didn't.
not. And that's what they were wondering, why we did not recommend our own budget. And I replied that it was not our budget. It was the budget
I
committee's
understand, but
budget.
they were also questioning how the article was written.
Oh.
So,
Well, that I
was
can
the-
help you with.
Yeah.
well, I can because it's by RSA is how it's written, and it's written exactly as the town's.
Yeah.
That's my only point.
Quit made.
What's that?
You made.
Well, no, I just want to clarify. We don't write.
No one writes like that.
It's all governed by the government.
Yeah.
We just follow the rules and regulations.
And if there are any questions, feel free to send us an email. And I'm serious. Like, you know,
We're waiting.
Tina
We're-
wants emails.
I'm lonely. It's just that I'm lonely.
Just
I
one.
have one more thing.
One every 4 months would be nice.
One more under school district, because this isn't technically hold it, wellness? Yeah, that is,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a committee.
So should I give the report here?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the school board rep to the wellness committee. Just wanted to let the community know, parents, community members, we're going to be holding a wellness committee meeting, and we're inviting anybody who wants to become involved. It's on February 19th, 3:15 to 4:15 at Campbell High School. And we're looking to meet probably about 3 times before the end of the year. Really put a stronger focus on wellness than we have in the past. And it's, it's all the areas that accompany wellness, eating, exercise, but, social and mental health as well. So looking at the audience, because we actually have an audience.
And then I have one other thing to it. The town has, we've begun the process as far as a capital plan. We had our first meeting last week, and our next meeting is March 2nd. And the school is going to be putting together a listing, more or less, we call it a wish list if you want it, a needs list, as far as a 5-year plan for the town, as far as a vision that we have and what our needs are, as far as capital improvements and capital plan. So if anyone does have an interest in joining the meeting, we'll be here on the 2nd of March.
That's 6 o'clock, you said.
That is at 6 o'clock, yeah. And they'll bring us to community forum. Hearing none?
What does that mean?
You can come
speak.
talk to us now.
Okay. So I heard.
Come
that
on up
we're-
here, Mrs. Romano. Come on up here.
Oh,
And state your name.
name and address.
You
And
know.
I'm new at this, sorry.
That's all right.
My name is Leanne Romano, and I am concerned, someone had put out there,
Your address, please.
I'm sorry?
Your address?
Oh, 7 Country Lane, Litchfield. Someone had put out there that we are, or you people are considering pay to play. And I'm not sure what that means, but my
That's-
child,
That's coming up in the agenda a little later on.
so we don't want to discuss that.
Well,
There's public input right afterwards.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're able to talk to you about the different things that you just discussed?
It's
Okay.
board information.
So what you both read, I'm here and I'm still confused as to what it is. So whatever that was, if I'm standing in the booth, I'm like, what is this? What are you actually asking us to vote on?
So you think we need some type of like simplification?
You know how you put
Well, you can't.
the
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
budget, the
Yeah.
budget committee voted for this?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be on the
That'll
bottom.
be on.
Well,
there.
that's great, but can you put a little note, voting for this means that, this is going to
Yeah.
We
happen?
were going to send
Yeah.
something.
Can't
out.
Because that's,
You can't put it on the ballot.
On the ballot, but we're gonna,
We usually send out
We
like an
send out
explanation.
explanations.
you're very good at it.
Thank
You
you.
you educate the people and we're like, okay, great. Now we know
And
what
if you
this
have any
is all about.
questions,
She's our
always-
spokesperson
She's
online, so we
very
all
good.
aren't chiming in.
that's gonna be a next job. She'll clarify that on.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
because that was a little confusing.
Yeah.
The idea that you had about, giving us the Friday off, that looked like it might work. That looked
Mhm.
good for Labor Day. And I don't know if my input is, that's good. And as far as school, being us not going to school for voting or whatever, I liked your idea as well. Lock the doors and have a security, or a police officer there.
The time, I can tell you the times we have not had school is because the police department has asked us for security reasons not to have school.
Oh, no, I get it.
Like
but
presidential
But
elections.
if they don't have a problem, right, if they don't have a
Yeah.
problem as far as the state and they don't expect a large turnout, then generally we'll communicate with them and they generally don't have an issue because we've had school plenty of times during elections.
as a mom, I mean, I like my kids to go to school.
We do
Love them
too.
to death, but it's good that they're in school. It's excellent because
Right.
I'm not a very good teacher. And when I have them at home and, we're doing that, it's not in their best interest. Tara, your committee that you're doing,
Wellness committee.
Yeah. Do you guys discuss the rules of when someone has a fever, don't send them to school, people have lice and they can send them to school? I'd like to be a part of that because I have concerns.
Okay.
I keep my kid home and others don't.
We thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
I'm like, what? You're sending your child to school? Oh my God.
I'm a teacher. I get it. Here's your Advil. Have the nurse call me at 12.
Right. You're staying home and you're staying home another day.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing this all winter long.
I think part of what we can talk about is
I'd love to.
communication, I mean,
I'll come back for the pay to play.
I'm not trying to stop you. It's just, you might as well just wait until we do our part and maybe you won't even have any questions.
Yeah, you're right. All right.
thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for public input right now?
I like the public input. It's almost like getting an email.
Yeah. Except in person.
Better.
Where are we on the agenda? What number?
We
Letter H. Community forum.
H.
Community forum.
There's no.
You don't have an H?
H.
Oh,
Page 2.
oh, I did.
So
Yes,
it's-
the section one.
It's Roman 1, section H.
I had already flipped the page
general
over.
business, Roman numeral 2.
We were on the
At 7 p.m.
paper. We thought we skipped the whole
No.
thing.
Yeah, we're on Roman numeral
Yeah.
2. All right, so no one else right now for public input. All right, we have a set of minutes, January 22nd, 2020 for approval.
Make a motion to approve the January 22nd minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Next is the principal reports that if you are at home or here with the computer, you can just open the links and feel free to read them. And next we have our enrollment report.
Bear with me, I have it on paper. So basically, for the month of January, you can see that Griffin remains steady at 483 students. The middle school gained 2 students, so they're up to 399 at this point. And the high school lost 2 students, so they're at 435. So overall, as a district, we are up 9 for the year since we opened on September.
So compared to last year, I was looking at that. Last year at this time, we were up 11 students. This year, we're up 9 from September. Are those, do you think, maybe Brian or the other folks, maybe who have, Michelle, maybe who have been here on the board a little bit longer? I'm wondering if, is that mostly kindergarten or are those typical changes? I mean, it's a pretty big jump. And it's mostly at GMS that we get the biggest
Well,
growth, 10 and 11.
People aren't going to move when kids are in high school for the most
No,
part.
they don't go
Yeah, I
anywhere.
think it's the turnover of houses in town, right? Or the selling of the new construction. It's just as things go on the market, families are moving in.
So you don't think it's a new trend? You think it's
Just
I
the
think
way
it's a
always
continuing
been like
trend.
that.
Yeah, as long as we're selling, as houses go on the market in Litchfield, I think new families are going to be moving in and using our schools.
I just found it interesting that
Yeah,
we,
it's definitely I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The population growth in, I think Dan said it was 2019 was 2%.
Right.
And before that, that's for all of Litchfield, not just our schools. Our enrollment went up 2%, but the population of Litchfield went up 2%. Prior to that, it was like 0.2, 0.3. The highest increase in population had been like 0.5%. So 2018, 2019 was a big jump. It, kind of a jump start for population growth in Litchfield.
I just think that this is an important thing to kind of understand because, the budget committee talks about budgeting for what we have today. But if this is a trend that every year we get more students, I think that needs to be factored in.
People aren't going to be buying the houses behind Brian's house, the 18 new houses. They're going to be young families. They're going to be, my neighborhood's almost completely turned over. That year that there were like 150 kids in a class, all those people are in condos somewhere. It's true. I'm sure a lot of people's neighbors have all turned over. As soon as their kids graduate from high school, they get out of the big house.
Yeah, and that was our argument, our defense with the budget committee, and saying, when you look at 3-year averages from, was it 2017, 16, 17, and 18, you're not taking into account all the population changes that we've seen in the last year, 2 years. So,
And those houses behind me are going to be big houses, so hopefully I'll have 18 houses.
18 houses behind you? How many?
17, I believe.
17?
Oh, man.
Across from the pink house,
Be big.
behind Brian's neighborhood, all in there.
That is going to bring us to acceptable use policy. What is this one?
I don't know.
Every year it comes back at us. I believe so.
Because there were changes.
So the acceptable use policy, Jason had actually proposed some changes this summer, and then it just didn't get brought forward. So it's coming forward mid-year.
That's why.
But if you look at it, it was last approved by the board in 2016.
Because we changed it.
And so it's been a few years, but it was here in December of 2016. So basically, Jason is proposing to make some adjustments. Probably the best way to do it is to look online. The adjustments are highlighted in yellow, and they're all recommended changes to streamline it and to make it more clear. We've had some just conversation with staff regarding the right to privacy on our network. The policy is really clear and consistent with law that there's no right to privacy when you're using the school district servers. So we made some tweaks to the language to really make that explicit. And so if the board is, interested in taking a look at that as a first read, and then we can move on from there. But this is a housekeeping cleanup clarification based on feedback we've had from the 2016.
It basically says you can't do anything.
I think
It says to use it for educational purposes, and
Period.
yeah, I mean, that's why it's there. That's why the taxpayers are providing it to you.
I haven't had a chance to read this. I don't think it was up here yesterday. I read everything yesterday and I didn't see it.
Yeah,
so,
me too. I haven't read
so
it.
I don't feel comfortable talking about this right now.
Well, the policy was up there since Friday, but there were 2 smaller changes that were made this morning.
I saw
I
it.
didn't see this document.
There's really no rush on this either.
Okay.
I mean,
It's been 4 years.
I think
Well,
the
it's been in
technology
place.
things
All right.
we updated every year. Stuff
Yeah.
happens all the
Yeah.
time.
We sign it every year.
Yeah, every year. Yeah.
All right, we can bring it back
Okay.
the next meeting
Okay.
for the first
Thank
read.
you.
Moving on.
absolutely.
What should we talk about now?
Well, next is deliberative session planning.
No.
I haven't gotten to work on any slides. I've been so busy.
But before we go into that, I'm going to make, I'll just put it out there that we discuss pay for play first, so that I know the individuals in the audience here, that's what they're here for.
That's a great idea,
And then we
Brian.
can go into our deliberative session.
Awesome.
They can stick around, listen to our deliberative session, but I don't
Or
think
send
they'll
us an
want to.
email later.
Can I start on that? Or do we have to go?
Well, let me just, why we have it on the agenda. There's a budget committee member, Brian Hodgkins, who brought this up at the budget hearing, inquiring that if kids want to play, why don't they pay? So, I mean, there are many reasons why they don't, and in some school districts, they do. We understand that. So rather than not listening to a member of the budget committee, that we thought we'd put on the agenda and then discuss as a board if someone wants to go anywhere with this or have any type of discussion.
I'll start. So when I saw it added, and all due respect to Brian, there was no support in the budget committee for this. And when I saw it added, I guess my question was, why? Are we going to bring up anything somebody mentions in passing. I just,
Well, I think it did come up. He had mentioned it at a few meetings.
you mentioned too.
I've heard it in the past from other
Yeah,
members as
and the
well.
budget committee chair.
Every 3 or 4 years it comes up.
Yeah, the budget committee chair did say that, it should be a discussion. It.
Well,
So-
she backed off that quickly, but
I'm
It's
actually
just-
glad to have the information.
it's just to me that it comes down to, and I'll put it bluntly, to me, if you're going to start leveling the playing field, then the level playing field is an adequate education. So if you're taking honors, AP, athletics, art, above and beyond, you got to look at pay for all of that. I mean, I really believe that because athletics is part of the education system in the U.S. I should say.
I thought the information here was really thorough. I mean, in my mind, there are 2 legal opinions on this, and you can't create a waiver system. That that was pretty clear from the legal advisory bulletins or whatever they are. And
Tara, where are you getting your information?
I have it right here.
you have
Can
a bunch of
refresh?
documents. Yeah, these I found. I actually read all
See all
of
those
them.
links?
Yeah.
You didn't have them, I don't know what-
Yeah, there were legal
There were 2
opinions that.
agendas. I
Yeah,
this.
I'll look at it
Yeah.
after, but
Yeah,
anyway.
I think that
No,
might
I
have
was-
been
I
why
have
Tara
to-
and I didn't see the
I swear to God, this one wasn't on here.
acceptable use policy either.
You have to refresh.
but no, I think the legal opinions. I'm very glad to have all this information. Yet co-curriculars are clear that they're part of an adequate education. It doesn't define further which sports or which co-curriculars. And it looks from that chart that you provide. My question how did you choose those schools? Are those the only schools in New Hampshire that have costs? They don't seem to be our cohort. Where did that list come from?
Those are the people who got back to us.
What happened?
Okay.
Yeah, in 2000.
Fair enough.
Basically, in 2010, we did the same thing, the same study, had the same discussion. And the superintendent at the time sent out a query on the superintendent's administration listserv. And those are the people that got back to us. So I reached back out to them, and the only ones that got back to me are the ones where you see 2020 next to it.
Okay.
That's all I had at that time
So
for
it's
this.
kind of a random subset. We don't know how many don't charge at all, and from those, some of them have a smaller fee to one of them, I think even goes up to $240 max for family. Some single out a sport. I was originally, when this first came up a few months ago, I said, well, I personally would be willing to pay a fee, but then Rob made the comment that, even if it's a $50 fee, it really does not offset the athletics hardly at all. But then it would really limit kids who can't afford to do that. And then the waiver system really is not, we thought if the kids were on this free and reduced lunch program, that maybe that would be an easy way to allow them to get a waiver, but you can't, for privacy reasons, you can't transfer over that information. So that can't be used. And it's also degrading to kids to have to go through that process. So, that was all part of the legal opinion. So I think I've changed my mind. I just don't think that, I think it's part of an adequate education. So.
I think what bothered me a little bit about it when I saw it on here was it was brought up. It didn't seem to have any traction. And I do want to point out the same member also suggested that special ed was paid for out of the family's pocket, not out of the school. So, I mean, there's a lot of things being thrown around at budget committee meetings that I just don't know if they really need a place here unless there's unless you guys are all going to slap me in the
Well,
head.
and
say,
probably doesn't-
you want to pay to
I
play
Rob, I think the point is that someone on the budget committee did mention it. And-
I know, but there's a lot of things mentioned. I just
But
don't.
another part of it too is just trying to get the information out there. And we know that he's part of the what's not up page, and we don't have access to that. So he'll put his stuff out there, and we'll just give him the information. My feeling on it, if we're going to do pay for play, it's going to be for every single co-curricular program there is that we have.
agree.
Yeah.
And that's, I agree 100%.
And
Yeah.
then it's how do you figure it out?
Yeah.
You know, like Tara, you mentioned you'd pay $50. Well, I would look at it that, well, you're talking football. Much more expensive, much more insurance, much more travel, much more equipment. So your amount will be $500.
That's what some of the schools do. Yeah.
My kid plays soccer, so it should be $10.
But again, you have to look at what the
And then-
schools are doing it for. It's almost across the board hockey. I mean, hockey's got, and
Yeah. We
no
make
offense,
the
I
students pay for hockey.
grew up playing hockey, but it's also a sport with fewer numbers of kids, with
Paying
huge,
for ice time, you're
huge
paying for
costs.
equipment.
I mean, it's got to be subsidized.
And the reason for that is what I heard from research is it's mostly because hockey is self-funded.
In most schools, it is. It's
Yeah.
self-funded, yeah. But smaller schools, not bigger schools.
Yeah. And this all, just to let you all know that this all came up during the budget committee meeting, talking about transportation. We were, the budget committee cut the transportation budget that we presented to them. And
We try to get the money back in.
and we requested to add the money back in. And so when we looked at it, you know, we ended up, if we allocate the cuts to all of the different transportation modules, well, we can't really touch daily bus runs. We can't touch vocational bus runs because those are, you know, educational programming. So then we were looking at co-curricular and athletics, and then that's when it was brought up that, you know, maybe the cut hits athletics, and then the institute paid.
Have
But
we
so-
looked into buying a little bus like they have at Alvern and all the, seriously, all
Well,
the teachers
it
at
takes-
Alvern,
Think of what that would save with.
the golf team, the wrestling
golf,
team,
yeah.
the teachers
Tennis.
drive, a Litchfield resident drives her student teachers to the middle school
Getting
to
off
do.
track right now.
But it's
But
true,
it's
that
part
would
of
save
the-
money.
Yeah.
It would.
There are other
There
options.
are legal licensing restrictions, so I'm not suggesting
Certification.
that everybody's doing what the law says you have to do.
So I had a question about the, can
Definitely
gate
explore it.
receipts, can gate receipts be used to offset athletic transportation costs? I know
Again,
they're current.
It's hundreds of dollars. We're talking
Oh,
about
yeah,
so it's not a
$50,000.
lot.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a drop in the bucket.
So if I could just frame for the board a little bit why it's on here. So it did come up in the budget committee. I addressed it. I think I handled it pretty openly and, you know, a lot of information flow. But then recently there was a posting on What's Up that said, you know, as soon as it came up, it was a hard no, which really wasn't what happened. I'm also sensitive to where we are in place and time, meaning that we have a deliberative session on Saturday. And I didn't want to have it come up on the floor of deliberative that the board hadn't had a conversation, that the public hadn't been engaged in it. You know, I won't predict motions that could or couldn't be made, but I just thought it was important that we at least recognize that it has been explored by the district in the past, and the district, based on legal opinions, has landed not to be there. But this is a new board and new public, and so an opportunity to weigh in now made some sense prior to Saturday.
Yeah, well, I'll just give my opinion. I'm not for pay-for-play.
Neither am I. Okay, it's out there.
And then we also gave Brian an opportunity to come this evening. I know it's kind of probably short notice for him, but we did give him an opportunity to come if he wanted to speak. And I will say, speaking again of the same individual, if you've watched any of the budget meetings, really feels that most things should be paid for by the parents, including Chromebooks. Just the basic necessities of teachings. So,
And in fairness to Brian, when he puts it out there, others chime in. So he's not the
Yeah.
only member of the community. So
And he did run, I mean, he ran, basically everyone knew this is what he was. And he's consistent, which I
Exactly.
appreciate.
I agree.
He's
Yeah.
bold and consistent.
I just don't want the hard no. The answer is no. We're just not going to,
Right.
you know, I mean,
No, I
we
agree
we
with
should know why we're where we are. So
but I just, if I understand, this board is not in favor of pay-for-play.
I mean, I'm not.
I will tell you, we did find a couple of other studies out there. So Bedford, which has a pay to play, has about a 30-page report when they were exploring. And it's dated 20, oh gosh, what was the date on it? 2010, I think, because it seems like when they were opening Bedford High, they did an in-depth study and published this report. You can find it on their website. It, reached a conclusion of a small fee as a way to offset, right? So they reached a different conclusion, but they have a ton of data, but it's 10 years old. So it's hard to.
I mean, if we're going to do anything pay to play at all, I guess I'd the only thing I'd be interested in talking about is the possibility of the students buying their own uniforms so that they have their name on it.
Well, the thing is,
updated uniforms, but that'd be the only thing I'd even.
I think that's part of the program, though.
Yeah.
And someone had asked also, like, okay, if we do pay for play, does that eliminate fundraising? No, because fundraising basically offsets items that aren't in the budget.
I think we need to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, we do. I agree.
What's that? Fundraising.
We have had conversations, but we can have them again. But I mean, generally what they'll end up buying is like either warm-up shirts, warm-up suits, things that they could go to the AD for and say, listen, I need $5,000 in my budget for this. The AD will say no, so they go and fundraise.
But again, we got to get back to that whole thing. They want warm-up suits, they want sweat, they need to be buying them, not fundraising for them. I mean, that's just,
The AD has agreed on to a new company to provide uniforms, consistent uniforms.
Nike, I guess it's kickback.
Nike. Well, yeah,
Kickback.
but it's also they give you an allowance
Legal
each year.
kickback.
They give you an allowance each year. They're higher quality than what they have, so they'll actually last.
And it's on a rotation, so every
Yeah.
year, yeah,
As it is with
Exactly.
uniforms right now.
yeah.
Any other conversation on paper play?
Aren't you glad to stay?
I had a question on it. Do I have to come up? Sure, we'll do.
Do public input.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we
Public
do
input.
that, we'll start public input after too.
Hello,
Just state your name and your address, please.
Jim Norton, Woodhawk Way. Whose decision does it become? Budget committee or school board for pay to play?
School board.
School board.
Okay, so it's not if they cut it so deep, then you guys have to make that decision too.
they can cut deep, but it's a bottom line budget, meaning.
We have to find the money
Then you also
somewhere.
have,
Okay.
and the town has the opportunity to go to deliberative and add that money back in.
Okay, all right, good.
Or somebody at deliberative could cut deeper.
Mhm.
So Saturday, there could be a deeper cut that then jeopardizes. I mean, so that all of these pieces come into play. It's who knows
So
what
if you,
could happen.
if you thought it was beneficial to the district to have some of that busing money back, you could make a motion on the floor Saturday to add it. But somebody could also make a motion saying the cut wasn't deep enough to cut. Is it 10% or maybe you had to think of something else?
And then as far as like, you're asking, would the budget committee at deliberative go and cut? They wouldn't do that. Not deliberative. I mean, they have their sessions. They go through the budget
Yeah.
process with us. They're not going to turn around and then go to deliberative and say, we didn't cut enough. We're going to cut another $100,000 out of sports. They won't do that. They'll do it through the budget process, but not at like a deliberative session.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Cole?
Cool. You good?
Gail, you can't be quiet.
You guys have to say,
It's awesome.
Getting the
Yeah.
information from the school
Yeah.
board was the important part, right?
Yes. And it's nice to have people
Yeah.
come to our meeting.
Write us an email.
So you guys can all go home.
Somebody sent Tina an email.
It's on Facebook. I really don't know why she wants more.
Actually, I guess I don't want to get into it too far, but if we do have to be careful because the budget committee they really don't like something and cut something, and then we fund it, they can come back next year and say, well, you funded it when you didn't have the money, so we can cut more. So it's almost a vicious
It's tricky.
circle. We have to be careful what we do.
Unless you can justify why you
Justify, but you do have to worry about that if they did something.
It's only high school sports, or is it?
Well, it was the,
I think this got a little blown out of proportion. As I hate to keep saying it was one member, and I think there were a couple people that kind of like the sound, but once some
Do we need it? Do we need that,
once some back and forth happened, I think my reading of the budget committee was there was no support for
So
it.
there's
So
an additional budget committee member that did post for pay for play off of postings from it.
okay, I didn't
So
see
that
that. I'm
was-
sorry.
That
So
was kind of,
two.
because I posted just kind of that you guys were having this discussion tonight, because I thought it was important to know, and I found out about it Monday night at our Booster Club meeting. And so then, there was a budget committee member who did kind of post that she was, for it, and that was interesting to me too, because they said.
Well, depending on who it
It
is,
wasn't-
one bounces back and forth.
Yeah,
left
and that's
right,
why we
up
were
and down.
curious we didn't know how that worked, whether it was budget committee, expense decision, or school board in terms of.
no, we do, but I think we expressed to the budget committee that we felt, and the fact that we didn't recommend the operating budget in Article 1, we feel that the cuts this year were too deep and will have an impact on programming.
Everything.
We did request, I think it was like $80,000 that we requested they put back in, so we didn't have to affect programming. And Some of it was restored, but not all of it. So that's why we ended up not recommending the budget. But that's all part of the process. You know, they had their goal is to present a budget that taxpayers will be happy with and can support. And our goal is to keep programming it what it is and where we should be. So there's always that kind of back and forth, unfortunately.
So you just killed it here. Can it come up again? Because my concern is I've got one kid that does all the clubs. And I've
hear you.
got one kid that is in every sport.
They can come up every week.
I will
Yeah.
tell you, I will tell you the best thing you can do. Honestly, is, I mean, you can see us, we're excited people are here. 10 people showing up at a budget committee meeting is 10 more than have shown up at pretty much any meeting this year. I mean, people showing up and letting their view be known, I think, you know,
Speaks
will
volumes.
speak volumes to a lot of the members. I hear members all the time saying, the people who elected me said I should
Right.
do that. Well, guess what? Here are the people that elected us all. If they're showing up in any numbers, I think they'll listen. The majority will listen. Some people are going to vote a certain way every time, but people will listen. I mean, I think everybody's reasonable here. Nobody's, well, any committee, selectmen, budget committee, whatever. I think they're
Except
all out
Brian.
for what's good for the town. And I think they're all open to hearing things. But you do have to watch it because we brought back at any time. And I think
We will always
we'll
let,
post it.
you know, I try to post the agendas every week and let you guys know what's coming up and what we're discussing. So thanks for paying attention and keep on doing it.
Saturday morning's very important too. It gives people the right to vote and speak about all the things in the warrant articles, and if there's differing views, it's good for the school district to hear it. It's good for the budget committee to hear it.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
very important meeting.
10 a.m.
So the default budget, higher default budget is what we have now, and any contractual, legal obligations.
Janine's gone rogue.
That's fine.
So it's gonna
Hold on.
depend on what.
So we have to talk about the deliberative?
Yeah.
As it stands now, things.
You say no? I say
So if
All
the
right.
operating budget is the one that passes, they're gonna have to make some tough decisions.
All right, so we're going to go on to our deliberative session planning.
We'll see you there on Saturday morning at 10. 10 o'clock. Bring your friends.
You know, I know, just a
What?
Back. You and all your friends. That was exciting.
Let me see. I will.
That does speak volumes. How many? That's like just a few members of the booster club.
Right.
All right.
I
Deliberative
know.
session.
I think, so make sure I have this right. So Tina, you're working on a PowerPoint. Or a
Yeah.
slideshow.
Totally working on that.
And
I
just-
found your template and I started changing mine.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah,
don't
it's the
get
same
rid-
slides as
okay.
last year. I'm just going through and changing
is
the
it,
content.
it's a Google?
Yep, it's all shared in the school board drive.
Is it all the same slides as the teacher contract one?
I'm changing all of those to make it for the LSSA contract because you guys don't want their
Are you
contract.
making them less slides?
Yeah,
A lot less?
they had pretty
Is
pictures.
it gonna have
on
stairs
there.
on it?
No, I don't think they're gonna have stairs. I do have pretty pictures though.
Horsey Ducky.
An
Horsey
apple.
ducky.
There's gonna be at least one apple.
Several apples. A few dollar signs.
Where do you have it? Do you know which folder it's nested in?
I
Oh my
don't.
Sorry.
I did a search for deliberative
Deliberative. Let me do
because
that.
I couldn't find it, and then it said, and then it popped up deliberative session 2020.
It might
So-
be in, is there I think I made a folder for town meeting 2020.
Deliberative session 2020. I
You
got
go.
it. Okay, perfect. So, and you're comfortable if we all sort of
Yeah, please.
work on this?
Please,
Okay.
please.
Feel free to look at mine. Mine are. I started them at least. They're more than halfway done. When we're up there, are we going to be able to see the notes in the presentation? Because I'm putting notes in there.
No.
If you look.
No. Okay. All right. That's okay.
Well,
As long as I know
It's
I
full
think it-
screen, so you can't.
it's full.
I think there's a way to have it
I need a
on the
snack.
computer screen and not project it on the screen. So,
Okay.
so those little notes at the very
Yeah.
bottom,
Yeah.
I think it's possible, but if not, we can
Is
just
it
print off a
travel
copy. I have a paper copy.
Okay.
If it's on Google, if you present it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm glad to know that. Thank you.
All right, so Article 1 is pretty straightforward. And that's gonna be presented by Carrie, and then I can speak on it.
Is it? She's doing that?
It's her budget.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does she
Budget
know
committee
that?
always presents.
Yeah.
So do we have to share this with Carrie too?
You can.
I mean,
She's gonna present what she did at the budget hearing.
oh, not this.
No, she's gonna present her presentation.
She's gonna
which-
present her own.
Right.
Okay, so she'll go first and then we'll do the,
She'll do, it'll be the
Articles
almost
one.
exact same presentation.
Presentation
She just
needs
did-
yeah.
corrections.
We got to make sure her numbers are right.
Yeah, that's what she just did deliberative. She basically
Yeah,
had
town
the same
deliberative.
presentation for the town showing the
Right.
methodology, and then where the cuts were and the meetings they had and that type of thing. So I'm sure she'll be doing the same
There
thing
it is.
as far as with us, and then she'll show the cuts. And what I want to do is, Corey, if you can have the exact numbers for me, the numbers we had cut prior to. I know that.
I have all that in
Yeah.
summary.
So I just need that like probably on a chart. Just they say they cut 750,000, but we'd already cut like 300,000 before it went to them. And then even probably the numbers we tried to have restored, they didn't restore as far as what our needs were.
Okay.
The ones that when Tina was at that meeting.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I need for that.
$80,089.
And I'll also explain as far as what's that?
I just
Okay,
remember
1,000.
how much we asked
She
to
knows.
restore.
Yeah. Okay, so Article 2, Tina's working on.
Do you have? Just
Okay.
send me an email if you want.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's like the teachers, they didn't have a contract one year and,
Yeah, and that's important that we get them one. And I
Yeah,
have the
those are good.
TA, so I'll go through and just highlight the key areas.
I felt that it was a very fair negotiating contract and they're worthy of getting it.
Absolutely.
So Article 3,
Which is?
the trust fund, the class size reduction expendable trust fund. Are you doing that one, Tara?
Yep, 3 and 6.
Okay.
Do you have any questions on it? Any?
No, I actually had a meeting with Mr. Thompson about it. No, I feel like I have, no.
It's pretty
If I could look
straightforward,
at
I
my, hold on. I think I just have 2 slides for that
I
one.
think it's a matter of explaining exactly what it is probably the most important thing because it's, I think we talked about it, it's kind of like a little confusing.
Yes.
The title of it.
Yeah, what it is. And then I think my second slide is, I think people want to know and understand that we're not adding classes willy-nilly. I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes into
It's all driven by numbers. I mean, that's,
numbers and priorities. I mean, we may need 2 classes, but we may not choose to have 2 classes because of conflicting priorities. And, we faced that already. So, so I'm
And it's
gonna
important
look
too
at
that
criteria.
anytime when there has been a decline in enrollment, we have cut teachers.
Right.
We don't continue to add teachers and add teachers, but
so your point as far as we don't do it willy-nilly.
yeah.
This year and last year's perfect example, especially
Yep.
this year, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we kept like going back and forth as far as with kindergarten. Do we add one? Don't we add one? Do we add one? Don't we add one?
Right. And we wait until almost the last minute to do it. And,
Well, the thing is-
and timing and space are considerations
It was
too.
a month into school. We could have added a 5th kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
There
Right.
was a need. I
We
mean,
needed
the
it.
size
I
was
know.
there.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't as large as the year before.
Mhm.
So we kept our fingers crossed, especially, this one over here. And it didn't explode and it didn't. So it kind of maintained.
Right.
We're just on that cusp of we just rolled over like one student
Right.
that triggered, let's get that 5th class. But what we did is we decided not to spend that kind of money. Keep our fingers crossed. It didn't grow any further.
And then I think the enrollments that we talked about earlier in the meeting too just show that, really we should have had those classes, but we didn't. We didn't make a decision to do that at that point in time. So,
And this isn't just for kindergarten. It's for any
Right.
time we need to add
yep.
a teacher. This is just one teacher's salaries and benefits. The
The
99.
99, that's
Okay.
one teacher.
Anybody else have anything to add? Article 4. Corey, this is where I'll need your help also as far as, it looks like right now we're not going to be touching the monies for the special ed.
I'll set up a time with Devin to go through her budget, current, where things stand, and see if we can verify that, if we're gonna go in or not.
And then if you can just get from her too, I know we had one student that came in this year that wasn't budgeted. Is that correct?
There was a student that required a placement that wasn't budgeted. That's correct.
Yeah, so if you can give me that, those dollars. That's all things that take place. I mean, the budget committee's been cutting special ed every year. So it's getting a little slimmer and a little slimmer every year. And we had, a placement student which wasn't budgeted, which accounts for X amount of money. That's what's bringing us close to possibly tapping into that, that reserve. So really, that's all I needed, just like how close are we, did she anticipate us going into it and how much that new placement that wasn't budgeted cost us.
Correct.
Okay, Article 5. Am I doing 5?
What's fine?
5 is $70,000 for the study.
Who's doing it? You are?
I believe I am, yeah.
Brian?
Oh, I thought Tina was.
What's that?
I'll let
I
Brian do
thought
it.
Tina was doing it for a minute, but.
No, I'll do two.
That's one.
I'll focus all my energy on
I think it's good to switch off and have different people present,
Yeah.
frankly. That I thought that was, the town did that, and I think it breaks it up.
I'm just eye candy.
You just eye candy?
No, we're gonna give you one. One, 6 or
I
7.
offered to do two. Like, I think that two of them.
Personally, I'd keep one person doing it, but that's just me. One or two.
So is there anything you think they should focus on as far as capital planning or just discuss as far as we just want to
I
study
think
to-
the info we have from the state tonight is really helpful. And it just positions us for potentially down the road and to kind of get our ducks in a row. So later.
Something like
So just more or less discuss, I mean, as far as there's a timeline through the state that financial aid is available again and.
Yep.
Article 6, Tara, you're doing, I believe, right?
Yep. I got info from Corey.
Dale locks.
you.
And 7, I'm doing
That
of
enough?
course.
Yeah, I'm gonna only have one slide on it.
Who's doing 7?
I'm doing 7. Tara's doing 6. And again, Article 7 is basically just reading what on the warrant article. Just expressing that the police department has suggested we do that as far as for safety reasons. And I'm sure the fire department also would chime in that in case of an emergency, that getting through those doors quickly is probably more important than anything else. When you get a fumble through 50 keys to find the right key.
Right. Yep. Corey did convey that the fire department and police department both support this.
Anybody have any other questions or concerns or?
No, I'm also gonna say.
We'll go through it and just make sure everything's
Yeah, if you
aligned.
notice anything that's off,
Yeah,
let me
absolutely.
know. or-
No, it's looking good.
I'll have mine done by Thursday night.
Yeah,
late.
mine too.
Okay,
That's
just
my
FYI, so that'll
To
be the
do
final.
tomorrow night.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I don't do slides, so Corey will get the information, give it to him, put it in the slide.
Yes.
What's that?
I said, I don't do slides, so you can get the information from Devin and put it in the slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Or I can put it in a slide too. if you
Yeah.
want.
I now have it as an open tab, so it's in my workflow.
How many apples should we put, Liz?
Oh, all over the place.
All the apples?
At least a bushel.
Have them pop like bubbles.
And a peck.
Well, that brings us to the manifest. Any questions on the manifest?
No.
Hearing none. That brings us to public input. Does anybody from the community who would like to speak? Hearing none. That'll bring us to non-public session, RSA 91-A:311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee
By public.
affected one has a right to the meeting request to be open, in which case the request shall be granted. The hiring of any person as a public employee.
Have a good night.
C, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body of the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I do. Yes.
I do.
That's a lot of commitment, Tara.
Hey, do we have in that special ed?